All right, so now we're with the back part of the torso, and we're going to look at a grouping of muscles that are deep within the back layer. Okay, there's several muscles within the back total, and there's too many to learn to draw, and some are not necessary to draw. We want to draw what's visible to us as artists. Remember that. So if you're comparing notes between artistic anatomy and drawing with anatomy for physicians, then that's not a fair comparison, because there are things that we just don't want to know, quite frankly. And let's start out with some muscles that we won't know. We're going to be working today with the ERECTOR SPINAE muscles, okay, of the lower back and moving up all the way up to the neck in through here. So we have 3 drawings laid out, and you'll want to pause the video. I'm going to get out of the video for a little while so that you can recreate this drawing. We have 3 views to work from, kind of a straight back, and then a flexing back to the right, and then a kind of a flexing up slightly tilt of the back, which is a little bit more dynamic to work from too as well. So you want to freeze this and recreate this so we can add the muscles of today's lesson. Now, getting started, there's some underneath very deep muscles that we're not going to draw, and they attach themselves to the pelvic area, the sacrum area, sacrum coccygeal area, and they're the transversal spinalis muscles. They're thinner muscles, and they run all the way up through the sacrum up to the transverse processes of the vertebrae up to the back of the neck. We won't draw those because they're so deep. The next layer we want to draw because they are emerging in this area of the back. So let's take a look at them. So a couple things we want to learn about them or know about them is this. They're 3 separate muscles. The Illiocostalis muscle, the Longissimus muscle, right, and the Spinalis muscle. All right, so let's take that in monograms here and say I Illiocostalis, L Longissimus, and S Spinalis. Or I love sketching. If you love sketching or drawing, this is the one for you. Some doctors say I love standing, and that's cool. I'm just going to make it to sketching because we can. Okay, Illiocostalis, Longissimus, and Spinalis. Now we can group those all together into something easier to learn: the ERECTOR SPINAE, or we can also call it the sacrospinalis. However you want to say it is totally okay with me. Because what we've really got to know is how to draw it and how to see it, because it's going to show up on the model all the time, male, female, and depending upon the view, depending upon the development of the model, in terms of their physique, it can be quite prominent and obvious in our diagram. So I've taken the pelvis here, I've simplified it greatly just for time, and also to keep it basic. We'll get into the pelvis. That's one of our next anatomical studies that we'll do. So this muscle is grouped. Let's talk about it this way. Let's talk about it connecting to on top of the sacrum. Okay, so it lays across here, lays across the sacrum. Okay, about halfway down in through here, they'll connect up. Right in through here, lays across the sacrum, bones, and through here, okay? And it emerges out along the crest of the iliac crest of the pelvis, here and here, okay? About right in through here. And they're grouped all together. I think of them as vines or as stalks growing up out of the ground, out of the pelvis, and emerging all the way, coming up through here and over, coming up through and over here, okay? And they group around the vertebrae, the thoracic, transverse processes of the vertebrae. And so here's the boundary edge of them. And they're working through and up, and then they start to come over, and they attach to each one of these ribs at about the angle, right in through here, coming up. So see how they kind of stalk? They're like stalks, or like vines, if you will. So they're attaching through here, and we're going to break them down a little bit of a moment. And through here, they're underneath the scapula, and they're underneath, remember, the serratus anterior, right? Those finger muscles that come down, right? Sheath down from 1 to 9 and come over this way. Remember those? They're coming across and over those finger muscles, right? So they're underneath that too. So they're pretty deep, okay? And so they're attaching, they're attaching, they're attaching. So they'll come up here on the other side. This a little bit far. I'll bring it in just a little bit here, here, coming up like a stalk, attaching to those ribs. Each one we can't see because it's underturned in through here. Attaching, coming up and attaching. So they're like vines growing and emerging up to and around and over. And I'll just draw a simple cylinder for a neck here. We'll turn that, make sure. See, we're in camera. Yeah, we're just enough in camera. We can see that. And they come up here and emerge and around and come up through, okay, and attach here to the side, lateral of the neck and through here. So they're coming up and emerging through here and around, and they attach up and through here. Now, there's some more muscles up here in the neck that are on top. The splenius is up in through here. We're not going to need to know that because the trapezius will be on top of that for the most part. So there's an extra muscle there that I won't go into, but we will absolutely go into the trapezius. All right, so let's do that. Now let's finish it here and then we'll go over. How about that? We'll do that. Now we've got the whole grouping, okay? So the whole grouping is here. These are very much also like rounded cord vines or tubes. They're very much like cylinders, okay? They're fibrous, very strong muscles, and they have an arcing over quality that gives us the back that comes over, right? What we talked about, we go back in when we get to the spinous processes in through here. Those bony protrusions at the middle part of the vertebrae. There are 12 here at the thoracic area, okay? With C7 here being the last of the cervical area in through here. So we have that. So let's get this idea of this grouping of muscles, the erector spinae, the sacral spinalis, however you want to say it, turning, right? So turning. They're turning like this a little bit. They have this little bulge, okay? Now, as I'm doing this, the visible part, where we see the most, is in the lower back range. Okay, so working the tube, if you will, the tubes or the stalks or the vines. So I love this, the vine idea as it connects to each rib coming up and through and over and around. The next thing to know is that they split into 3 sections. The Illiocostalis, the Longissimus, and the Spinalis. Let's start with the Illiocostalis. That's on the lateral edge in through, in through about here. And so what happens here, this Illiocostalis muscle comes up, okay, separates here, attaching to on the outside these ribs, all the way, all 12 of them as it comes up and around and through here. So we get this breakage, the separation of the muscle. It will be hard to see anatomically on the model, but you want to know that they're there. And of course they're turning, right? They're turning and turning and turning and turning. like so. That's important to know. And attaching to that rib. What do they do? What is the purpose of the function of these muscles? These muscles help in standing you back up, making you come back to erect. If you're bending over, tying your shoe, or you bent down to pick up your pencil when you drew it, it's going to help you elevate yourself back to your natural position. So this Illiocostalis attaches more to the left side of the base of the occipital relatively region of the skull in through here. Okay, so that's the function. Also, when we're bending over, flexing, when they act unilaterally, here they're acting bilaterally together. Here they're acting unilaterally when we bend to one side a little bit or a lot of it. That will help in addition to the obliques, right? Remember the obliques. Here they are on the side. So I've included them just as an outline. We won't go into them. We've already gone into them, or if you haven't seen that, you'll want to go back into that that visible part. So the Illiocostalis here on the lateral end, it's actually the longest. It's even longer than what will be the longissimus, and we're kind of drawing the longissimus already, aren't we? I'll show you that in a moment. So the Illiocostalis muscle in through here, vine-like, stalk-like. See how they're growing out of the pelvis? That's what I really want you to see, that idea. How they're coming up out of this pelvic region as they attach to the crest over here, and they sheath over the entire sacral area. Coming up and over and through, and they attach here to the side, in through here. Now the next muscle is a longissimus, and it's pretty much, they're about the same width, roughly, okay? And again, they're both together. If you group them together now, create this kind of strong stalk feeling. This idea that these, and it can go both ways, these muscles, these cords, some artists call them the strong cords, cord muscles, and that's fine too. But they're very, very dense muscles. They're very strong muscles. They're quite fortified to help you, again, erect yourself, lift yourself up. But the longissimus is here coming up, so we've kind of already got it through here, all the way up and attaching slightly more medial here to the base of the skull. So that's the longissimus in through there. Then, of course, on top of that is the splenius muscle of the neck, and then, of course, the trapezius, which really shows up. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Now, the last one, the spinalis, where it shows up is roughly in the thoracic region, right in through this area. And it takes a really strong kind of triangular spear-like area, roughly like this. So we have the spinalis of the ERECTOR SPINAE right in through here. Okay. So they'll come up and around. And there's also in the cervix area, the cervix areas too as well, but we won't see much of that as well. Underneath the spine, through here, and also the scapula, I meant, right in through there. So there's the spinalis muscle right in through there. So let's do a little separating, a little bit better here. We'll take a little bit of darker. So they attach here. Now, down below, this is also interesting, the columbar muscles of, down in through here, the aponeurosis, I always get this word wrong. It's the thoracolumbar fascia. Right in through here. This is the area, remember that white connective tissue we're talking about. The thoracolumbar fascia, or aponeurosis, or white connective collagen-like tissue. That happens, all of this is bound together down below here. Even the latissimus dorsi, and we'll talk about that in another one, as it comes across and sheaths around, is also wrapped in it. And it's about a shape that looks like this, right here. And this is more white material. It shows up white-ish on the cadaver, on the model, on yourself actually. We won't bisect yourself, of course not, but it's right in through here, and that is the thoracolumbar fascia, or if you just want to think of it as kind of that white connective tissue right in through this region. Pretty fascinating. In through here. Now it doesn't have a form function in terms of a look. It is influenced by the feeling of these muscles, these grouping muscles down and through here. These are the dominant form shape in the lower back area. Okay, so this fascia comes right in through here as well. This is the dominant shape, these cords. Now, with this grouping, the most visible area on the normative model is right in through here, in this particular area of the model. So if we could make a circle, let's see if I've got the tape big enough. Yeah, it's perfect. So I'll circle that here. This is where you're going to see it on the model the most, unless the model, in all my drawing experience, I'll just put arrows like that coming back in, like so. That's where you're going to see it the most. You'll still see it protrude often at times up above. In this area, you can see these get bulgy and wider. They get, as you notice, I could probably go a little bit wider with my stalks out here as they attach. This gets a little wider at the top here, almost like a broccoli spear in food, like the head here. But I've seen them really pop out even in this area that I'm drawing right now above here, believe it or not. Even though we've got the trapezius on top of it, right? And you've also got the latissimus dorsi sheathed over on top of it, but it's a fairly sheet-like muscle, the lat, so but it can be developed pretty big. But I've seen this area be further developed pretty richly in bodybuilders, especially both male and also female, for sure. But I've seen some pretty wild, funky shapes. Now this gets also very idiosyncratic to the model in terms of its overall shape look. So they're not symmetrical. Just keep that in mind. So the spinalis here. So remember, the spinalis is on the medial edge in through here. It comes up through here. There's a little bit more in the cervicus area, the cervical area too. They don't really show up a lot. Sometimes you'll see this as they'll come in really close, and then the spinalis, the spinous processes of the vertebrae will pop through at times. They can actually pop through, and sometimes they can be disappear down here. Of course, we have the lumbar down and through here. They can disappear too, depending upon subcutaneous fat, etc., and so on. So thoracolumbar fascia down and through here. I always get that one wrong. So again, I know the form. So the form over the vocabulary, that would not work for doctors, but we're not doctors. Thank goodness. Right in through here. So really bulgy can be right in through here. The split through here of the Illiocostalis, Longissimus, and then the Spinalis makes its personages known up into the thoracic region. And of course these, let me make these a little bit more defined now as they connect out. These little tendinous connections of the Illiocostalis to each rib, kind of where they turn, they really angle back around. That's where they'll connect, and they get wider. Remember, they're underneath the scapula, and they'll get wider. So again, if you know what a vine, any kind of growth, I think of these muscles as growing from the sacrum out. Right? They kind of just sheathe on, attach on that rib, and just kind of keep on going up and around and through up to and into the thoracic and cervical area. Let's go on to the next one and let's start to add these forms onto this. So as we can relax a little bit now, we know what we're looking for a little bit. Let's take a look at these muscles and how they work. Let's group them together, because when you draw from the model, you'll want to group them together. And this is a simplified pelvis. Okay, in through here, just to have it on there. Okay, right. And so let's group them. We'll find them here. Let's find those stalks growing. The outer edge of the vertebral column gives you the outer column. So we'll come in through here and up and through, and then they start to grow as we come up the angle of the ribs here. Right, so we feel this around, feel this bulging here. We feel this bulging of the three, grouping them together, the erector spinae, or the sacrospinalis, then through and over and around, coming through here. They'll bulge a little bit and they'll connect up, right up and through to the lateral side of the head and through here, up and through and up into the more medial part of the occipital region in through here. You'll see that, you won't see this really, but you should know at least where they're going to attach to. Up and through and over, C7 here, then through and over, and then we get more lateral here, attaching in through here, coming down off the back, down in through here, and they start to get wider in through here and attach to those ribs. Remember, all 12 here, 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 right? And so you see them acting here against the obliques and in the rib cage, the 10th rib, and you get this nice, this will be wider. You'll see that pectoral, deltoid, lat, and through there we'll have that. And you'll see them start to bulge and make more tension here. They're working to stabilize even in flexion with the obliques and through here. So we're coming around. These might feel really turned this way. So we're thinking about, like in this case, a tube or a cylinder, right? So we'll make that move like so. Turn around, turn. Running through here as they turn. And then we get to really a nice possible visible part under the scapulae for sure. And then, or possibly, and then certainly down below, right around the 10th rib or the 11th and 12th, in this area, this visible area all the way through. These can come out really, really strongly. And we get this movement where they'll come into the oblique, and then we'll pick this up here, these stalks, and they'll be really strong, especially in the female at times. As the hips are wider, we can come out here and just with subcutaneous fat, etc., be here with it, right? So we can come over here. This is just muscle. And then we add the glutes and then subcutaneous fat, the trochanter in through there, right? And then so we have the split of the glutes up through here, right through here. Buttock region, obviously. Butt crack region. I tend to call that the buttus crackus in bad Latin. Here we go. We all have one. So then we're coming down with these cords, the stalks, right? Bean stalks, getting into the thoracolumbar fascia. I said it right. I can't believe I did it. They all attach here to the sacrum, coming down about 3/4 of the way down where those muscles attach. Basically, you think of them as fascia tendon, this area, again, right in through there and down. I'm not going to draw it here. But we see that coming around the model, merging into here. Okay, See how that really bulges out? And then you'll get some, oftentimes you'll get spinous processes coming out. This will hug in a little bit deeper at times. Now, I think also to think of it this way. Remember, we're coming over the erector spinae like this. This is important. And then we divot in to the vertebral column somewhat. That's important to see. Okay, you'll get these beautiful shadows into here. And a lot of beginning students will draw them as kind of a number 1 in parentheses, and we don't want to do that. We want to get this barrel-like cylinder quality here, up and in, and then over, right? Over that, over the spine. This would be the teres major here, coming over the lat, and then we come back over the serratus anterior in the lat and get this kind of an idea, right? Until then we get turned, and we'll turn around the model. So that's important to start to feel those. But let's get back into here a little and still feel this out. Now we're coming over here as they attach here. Get this rounded feeling. And here we're grouping them together. I'm going to keep it grouped of the 3. Remember, I love sketching, or I love standing. Illiocostalis, Longissimus in the middle, and the most medial is the Spinalis. Through here, then we'll come up and over a little bit, right? And these will attach on the rib, attach on the rib. They attach on all, but we'd see it more here, coming through and over, right? This would really get rounded. So those are pretty deep. Remember, we've got 2 muscles that will go on top of those. The latissimus dorsi and the trapezius will go on top as well. So keep that in mind. You're going to get this dimple coming through when you see models. What I call the sacral dimple. Here, the sacral triangle here, here, and under here you'll see a little bit. This little area of shading. This little triangle area actually where the oblique ends and the sacrospinalis muscles begin. There's a little opening here. Underneath there's deeper muscle, the transversus spinalis underneath it. I'm not going to have you know that. At least my students at the university, NKU here. So we have that. Right, so let's pop this in. I forget what the name of this is. It's triangular, some kind of triangle idea. I don't care, it doesn't matter. It just pops in right in through. You'll see it sometimes you won't. Subcutaneous fat's a big part of drawing a model. All of us, male, female, right in through. Right in through there. It's kind of the outer border of the model's body in through there. Coming down here. Center here, buttock, glutes attaching over. Won't get into that yet too much. All right, so there we go. I think we have enough for their grouping here. Okay, and then we could come over here to our last one and kind of feel this in another pose. And so we've got the spinal column here. This particular pose is more challenging because the head is kind of bent up. The model's looking up that way some. We can maybe pop this brow, this whole area. The chin would be more like that actually to finish this out. Skull cap here and over and around. Occipital bone about here, so everything. Center of the head about right there, so turning down more through. So this would really be pressured on the cervical part of the spine against the beginning of the thoracic part and through here. Trapezius would come here like that. So that'd be pretty bulgy right in there. And then C7, getting a lot of tension on it. You couldn't hold that forever. So it could be like a yoga pose looking up. And the bend of the back would be strongly running through here. So when you take a yoga pose and you're on your stomach muscles and you have to lift up your head, like I'll do a quick little diagram here. So you have to, here's your head, right? And here's the gesture of the body. And you have your pelvis here, right? And you have your, let's say you have your rib cage here, your hands are out here. And you have your pelvis floor, and then your feet are out and up, kind of flexed. This really puts a lot of interesting pressure on the sacrospinalis muscles. You can see that down and through there. So that kind of pose is really important. Yoga really gets at those quite nicely, actually. So that's important. All right, so let's go back over here. So let's see these cords emerge, or these stalks. So emerging from the sacral area, right in through here, attaching all the way down in through here. So this again is thoracolumbar fascia, or aponeuroses, or just attachment tendinous tissue. And then we come out, so I've exaggerated the perspective here, the vertebral column, so we can get a long, strong look here. About right in through here, they start to emerge. These are going to be really coiled in this view. See that? See that? Really, so that's a good view to see, I think. About right in through here before the obliques start. Here, they're going to be really coiled. And we're going to group them together again, the three, okay? And we're going to come up now. We'll find the edge here. We'll thin it out and through here up. This will really be a push, a turn. We could even do this, almost like end it, because it goes in. See, watch. We'll come up, come up, come up. This real strong back give right in through there, right through here. This strong area. We push, make that really turn that way. Then we get this turning over. Put that a little bit in shadow. See there, we get that. So that would put this area in light. You get a shadow here on it as it turns. Okay, turning, turning, turning. We're grouping them all together. Remember, the spinalis is the most medial, with the longissimus next, and then the Illiocostalis last, right? So we have that, and then we're going to come up here where this tension is, right? Where the rib cage comes back in here. The obliques and the sacrospinalis would overlap in this view, the strong view. And then we're going to come up the stalk. And remember, it gets wider. It's going to start to get wider and attach to those ribs like we talked about right over there, okay? Then we're going to come up. This will bulge. You'd see a bulging in through here quite a bit with the back. You'd see it with fat too. You'd probably do drawing more fat unless you had a real thick muscular model, both male or female. Doesn't matter. Up and through and over and underneath, because the trapezius would be underneath, or on top of there, and the splenius too as well. Through here. Over, and it will attach to the lateral side. So all these will attach underneath and around here and up. Spinius part of the cervix through here, and also the longissimus right in through here, and then of course the Illiocostalis on the side here. So they would be in definite tension and contraction bilaterally, or working together. Be very difficult to hold for too long. Okay, and through here, the spinalis might make a move out and over here a little bit. Right, up and through here. Okay, in that region. Flip it through. Of course, the scapula is on top. Remember that. It's not on the bottom, it's on top. These are deeper muscles, and again, they're most visible. I'll start to tone this out a little bit. Really throw this around. And these are going to be this is a diagram, so it's much more symmetrical. You're going to have all kinds of little subcutaneous fat marks, but you want to know what you're drawing. Then you'll have the oblique, you'll have a little space, and you'll have the oblique over here coming out and over. Could look like that, could bulge out a little bit like that. So we have the oblique here, little space here, little triangular space, and the oblique could pop out like so. In that respect. Sometimes you get some overlap here, some overlap. This comes over like so. Then you have the thoracolumbar fascia, attaching all this, sheathing over it. It attaches also and helps connect all these deeper back muscles together, holds them together. This little area is darker into here, right over and through here. Little opening right in through there, and I think we have it just about whipped. So there we go. So now we have the erector spinae on our radar, and that's important. They help in flexing the back, both forward and backwards, and helping you stand up together. Remember, I love sketching or I love standing are the three muscles, the Illiocostalis on the far lateral side, right, Illiocostalis. Then the Longissimus, it's a beautiful name, very poetic. Longissimus here, okay. Longissimus, all the way up, and then the Spinalis here, more in the medial area, attached to the transverse processes, and I believe the ribs, and also by aponeurosis, tendinous material, they're all attached together. So you have the three there, and just remember that these Illiocostalis muscles attached to these ribs on the outside. Sometimes you'll see a little bit of tendinous material, or material too as well. All right, I think that covers the erector spinae, and we'll move on now to the trapezius and to the latissimus dorsi, and I'm going to show you how they keep and a little opening or window. So there's a couple other muscles, the rhomboid in the teres major and the infraspinatus, showing through just a little bit as well. Also going to visually show you again where we see these the most, right here. That's the big, strong visual area. Right up in through here, you'll see it on most models in the back. And again, you want to get the idea, again, that they are they're very much like growing stalks, growing plants out of the sacrum, and they're also very much like tubes, various organic tubes. If they have a life, they come around, whoop, and over, right? And it generally gives you the underneath part of the vertebral column. Okay? All right, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you soon with the next in our Anatomy for Artists series. You guys take care. My students, get to work, and everybody in YouTube land, do what you can. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.